Those 5 reasons are very incongruent with our values, and I cannot recommend to you to live somewhere where I personally would not do so. Hey everybody, it's Kory. Thanks for joining me. So today's real quick video, I'm going to answer the question why we do not sell real estate in the state of Washington. Those of you familiar with our area know that Coeur is about 30 minutes east of Spokane, Washington. So a lot of the people that live in North Idaho who work go to Spokane Valley, the Spokane region for work. There's about 700,000 people between Coeur d'Alene and the Spokane metro areas. And those of you who are online might notice that Eastern Washington real estate prices are about 10 to 15% cheaper pound for pound for the same type of property that you would buy. Real estate is more expensive in North Idaho simply because there's fewer properties and higher demand than you would have in Eastern Washington. Now, why we don't sell in Washington is the same reasons as to why we don't live there. We did some research before we moved to North Idaho. We went through most of the western United States looking for a place to get out of California, and we ultimately settled on Coeur d'Alene, and our story's documented in many other videos. But when we decided to move to Coeur d'Alene, we avoided Washington for the same reasons that we don't sell in Washington. And here they are. I'm going to give you 5 reasons why we do not sell, why we do not live in Washington state. Reason number 1 is Washington has very oppressive Second Amendment laws. When you look at their black rifle laws, their magazine laws, you look at their concealed carry laws, they are really, really oppressive when it comes to your Second Amendment rights. Whereas Idaho is on the opposite side of the spectrum. And if you look at 2023 Guns and Ammo, I did an article on the best states for gun owners, and Idaho and Wyoming came out in the top spot, and then Washington's at number 40 out of 50 states. So we decided to avoid Washington because we are a strong Second Amendment family. We wanted to be in a state that not only respected our Second Amendment rights, but treasured them and did a lot to protect them, and that was Idaho. And I did a video recently, and I'll link it up here in the corner. You can check it out, that describes the Idaho Second Amendment laws and why they're so awesome. Second reason that we avoided Washington and why we don't sell real estate there is we can't recommend it because it is a sanctuary state. Washington state does not uphold federal immigration laws. In fact, they go out of their way, similar to California, to protect illegal immigrants, and if not protect them, to fund part of their lifestyle. And as a result, Washington state has illegals putting an extra burden on all their public services, their jails, their hospitals, their schools, their traffic, competition for homes, homelessness, all the things that we saw happening in California 20 years ago. Washington is on the same slippery slope in regards to how they treat illegal immigration. And again, Washington state is a sanctuary state. Idaho is not a sanctuary state. Idaho upholds federal immigration law. Third reason that we do not live in Washington state and why we cannot recommend it is it's a higher taxed state than Idaho is. And people go, well, Kory, Washington doesn't tax income. There's no income tax in Washington state, and that is true. But, and I've done videos on this as well, go back into our archives, I've documented many times how the states that have no income tax actually get taxes and funds from you in other ways. If you look at Texas, no income tax, right? They have some of the highest property taxes in the country. That's how they make up for not having an income tax. You look at Florida. Florida has many, many toll roads, and if you're going to drive in some of the more populated areas of Florida, you're going to be paying $200 to $300 a month just to use the toll roads. And those are the things that add up when you talk about the overall tax burden in the state in which you live. And that's what you need to look at. You need to look at the overall tax burden of the state in which you're going to live. And when you do that and you compare Idaho to Washington, the overall tax burden in Idaho is better than that of Washington state. You have lower property taxes, you have lower fuel taxes, you have lower taxes overall when it comes to your day-to-day costs. So that's the third reason why we wanted to avoid Washington state, and that's those tax dollars that you're actually paying more for than in Idaho. They go to things that we don't necessarily want our taxes going to, like saving killer whales and funding illegal immigration and things like that. All right, the fourth reason why we do not sell real estate in Washington and why we do not live there is the cost of living. When you take all the things that you spend money on day to day, we come out with a cheaper cost of living than that in Washington. Things like groceries, gasoline, utilities. When you factor in the taxes, as we talked about, all those things, you put them into the hopper and you spit them out. Idaho has a cheaper cost of living day to day than the state of Washington. And the fifth reason why we do not sell real estate in Washington state and why we don't live there, and this is kind of a funny one, but it's becoming more and more of a reason for clients moving from Washington to Idaho, and it is this. It's the marijuana laws. Idaho does not honor smoking dope. It's illegal to possess it. It's illegal to smoke it. There is no medical marijuana. There is no THC minimum requirements in the state of Idaho. It is not allowed. Washington state, it's legal to smoke and possess marijuana for recreational purposes. And we literally, you guys, have people moving from Eastern Washington to North Idaho, and one of the main reasons that they state is they are tired of smelling stinkweed in their neighborhoods. They'll be in their house and they can smell their neighbors smoking dope, and they don't like that smell. And if you're one that doesn't want to smell it everywhere you go, which you will when you live in Washington, you're going to want to live in North Idaho if you have a choice between the two. So I just gave you 5 reasons why we don't live there, and those are the same 5 reasons why we don't sell real estate there. And I just want to say this. We could sell in Washington state if we wanted to grow our business. Remember, we're a team. We're one of the higher producing real estate teams in the entire state of Idaho. Definitely one of the higher producing real estate teams here in North Idaho. When you work with us, you work with Bonnie. We don't hand you off to a newer agent. And that's one of the things that these larger teams that you're seeing, especially those that you see on YouTube and other social media sites, these groups and these teams are growth minded. They want to grow, and that means they have to bring on new agents. And when you bring on new agents, you got to feed them. And the way that a lot of these groups are doing it is they are getting dual licenses in the state of Washington and the state of Idaho, because they simply cannot generate enough income to support a large team here in North Idaho. So they have to expand out to Washington in order to become a bigger team. Well, that's not us. We don't want to grow. I don't like managing people. I've done plenty of that in law enforcement at the administrative level. So we like our team the size that it is. So we're not going to grow on you, bring in new agents, and hand you off to a newer agent. And in order to feed them, sell property in Washington state. And you'll see a lot of teams that do that. They sell both in Idaho and in Washington. We don't want to do that because we don't find that we can honestly recommend to our people. Our clients generally are strong Second Amendment, liberty-loving people who come to North Idaho for the culture and the very conservative culture. And I cannot tell those people, hey, you might want to look in Eastern Washington because of those 5 reasons that I shared with you. Those 5 reasons are very incongruent with our values, and I cannot recommend to you to live somewhere where I personally would not do so. And again, those 5 reasons why we don't sell in Eastern Washington. Number 1, Second Amendment culture. Number 2, it's a sanctuary state. Number 3, it's a higher taxed state than Idaho. Number 4, it's a higher cost of living day to day than Idaho. And number 5, it's legal to smoke weed in Washington, and if you don't like the smell of weed, you probably don't want to live there. All right, you guys, thanks for watching. If you have more questions about living in North Idaho, there is a link in the description below on how to contact us. Bye now.